Welcome everyone to another episode of Price Targets with your host Bitcoin Jack. It's been a while, welcome back. I've been very busy with other things and I find it very hard to get my thoughts structured in a video, and kind of felt like shit when I wasn't doing so, and then I kept on not doing it. And now Bitcoin is at a super important quote-unquote resistance according to many, so I thought I should really make a video, see what's up, see what I see, share what I see. Last time we made a video, price was in this consolidation right here. I really thought it was going to break out. It didn't, and what it did afterwards is dump into the support right here that we've illustrated in previous videos as well. So sure, I was not too happy with this invalidation right here. Stops were hit, and luckily buying the support has been fruitful, and Bitcoin started to make new highs, and actually made a 2-year high after rating this high right here. And now the big question is this resistance or not? I find that question very difficult to answer, because there's two things that we need to consider. The fact that this is super parabolic price action, that price didn't spend much time there, and that there was not a lot of volume that's been traded here. So I think that when price was rallying into this zone right here back in 2019, that it was simply just exhausted price action, that price couldn't rally much further, not just because there was a lot of supply right here, but mainly just because the rally was mature. It was exhausted. Everyone who accumulated Bitcoin, all the whales who accumulated Bitcoin, they distributed it to weekends again. So by the time their bags were empty, there was not, and everyone was buying. There was not a lot of reason to keep pushing Bitcoin, and they were not prepared to buy the dip, so they didn't create any support there either. They wanted to get a good discount. So basically, I don't think this was caused because there suddenly was a giant whale right here who stepped in. No, I think the whales just emptied what they had to empty, and then just pull off their buy support. And I think most of retail only became aggressive once price started to rally up here, and this was all buying, like aggressive buying. So that's that makes, like, if this really is a resistance of this supply zone, then this test right here needs to hold, and then you would probably, if this gets rejected, then you probably go test it again and get rejected again until you finally exhaust it enough. But I don't think there's actually real sellers. There's no back holders from back here. I don't think that at this point, considering I don't know, it's a very mature rally that we've had. Like it's been retesting its previous levels. Generally, when Bitcoin is parabolic or trending strongly, like it did right here back in 2019 or during the parabola of 2017, it just doesn't care. It just doesn't matter. It just has this consolidation, rips, never fills it. Fuck that. Yeah, eventually it does, but not straight away. And this has just been clear level by level. Well, kind of like skip this, but there's a lot of history there too. And the market was very confused after this huge shakeout. So what if it's not a resistance? And what if my thesis about this not really having a lot of supply, and that if we start to trade in there, the supply will just mainly come from people that want to take profit? What if my thesis is correct? Then I don't think that it's going to have a lot of trouble going through this. Maybe, obviously this would be a very difficult place to go through, which is around 16.2k important level. Probably that's going to hold. If not, then it's probably going to push through, and then it's going to go and try and get stops, hopefully, to reside up there, which gives whales an opportunity to offload some of their risk to the stops, and that way don't push price down immediately and have the support of the passive liquidity on the books to distribute some more of their holdings until kind of support breaks down again. And here's the thing, if price trades through this area, I don't think that it's going to turn into a support, simply because there hasn't been a lot of price action. There hasn't been a fair price established in this region. We had one interaction with it here that was a very small interaction, and then this kind of like region here, but trust me, there was not a lot of volume in there. I could show it to you, but really there hasn't been a lot of history there. So if price manages to kind of break through there, let me just hop to the 3-day. I think it's just gonna trade through it, maybe sweep the green level. If that happens, it's gonna spike hard. So maybe there's gonna be like a 1K fake out wick there, and then this is not going to act as a support. It's probably going to go back into this region and either test the top of this consolidation, or really go for the old weekly level at 12K, so 12 to 12.5. That would make a lot of sense. If not, I mean, that's all cool and possible. I mean, trading right here just doesn't make a lot of sense. There's quite... you want to trade it once it starts to break 14.1K and accepts it, and then I think it's going to teleport upwards. And if not, like the worst case scenario is going to be that as we've taken profit around this level, price is just going to come back into the 12.5K region. I think it eventually is going to visit it anyways. If it does it now, it's probably not going to revisit it anymore. And this gray box is then literally being respected as a real resistance, and I'll start to believe it's a resistance, which makes me believe that the third attempt is also going to fail, and that we're probably going to have, come down, come up, come down again, and then eventually break it, and then it's going to become a real support flip. I just don't think it's going to happen, and it doesn't really matter what happens, because I want to be a buyer if we come down here. I want to reduce profit as we came up here. I want to reduce profit as we go up here, because the likelihood of pullbacks coming down is big. So that doesn't mean I'm going to sell my Bitcoins. It just means that I've accumulated leverage over time, built positions, and I want to just make those positions a little bit smaller, hoping that a big sell-off eventually occurs, and then I can like go big again, with a lot less risk. Like if price corrects 30% in a couple of days' time, that's an opportunity. Maybe it goes down 40% more, but the thing is, after going down 30% in this current market cycle phase, it's probably not going to do much more. So the risk is becoming substantially less. So I do have two pivots, the 23rd of November and the 4th of Jan. Sorry about that. I'm not really sure whether it's going to be a top pivot or a bottom pivot. So really what I do think is that if this goes up, then it's going to become a top pivot, which, I mean, for all it matters, could go all the way. But this is the most likely level. If it goes higher, then, it's not going to stop here. It's just going to go much higher. Then it's going to be a top, whatever. And then it's going to come back down, potentially all the way to 12.5K. If that is the case, then eventually I think we'll go back up, and then either this is going to be the bottom pivot, or things are going to move much, much, much faster, and then I'll have to draw it a little bit differently. And then I think it's just going to be this very steep fucking price action and a very fucking steep correction here, and then come back up here. That would be some insane volatility, and would be a dream come true, because literally if you actually go up from here, you want to be a dip buyer. So it just gives a lot more substance to the idea of buying a dip, and at the same time, getting the dip with that much speed would just be a great knowing that we took profit and then it's going to correct and then we get to buy a nice risk-defined bottom again, kind of back into another sick rally. Not so sure how that is going to pan out, but I think being positioned long here is a smart move, and having built a position and reducing some of that leverage, that's just fine. That just gives me the opportunity to buy dips, and I'm too scared to short here. I don't think it's the move. I don't sleep well at night if I short here. So that's it. ETH. So ever since we started looking at that, it's just been going up, and then in the last video, it was at the resistance of. It was at this resistance basically, and it held. I mean, if it had been broken, it would have been just absurd, and we would have gone here. It's kind of sad it didn't because it's cool, but then at the same time, price has been moving towards this support right here, so we're going to get a buying opportunity pretty soon. I think there's a lot of people buying here right now. I think they're literally looking at this zone, and I'm not too convinced that it's the bottom yet. Especially if Bitcoin rips further. The trend has been that ETH BTC goes down, so I'm just going to let that happen. I don't really care for this support. If this support bounces and goes up, it's going to mean that I've missed some of the rally, and I'll be a buyer eventually if we rally become higher than this and then go to the previously mentioned targets. But I don't know. I think that price wants to come down here, and I think it wants to intersect with this trend line here. So that would mean that in like 2, 3, 4 weeks time, we would be around 246 level on ETH BTC, so 0.0246. Which obviously is funny because it coincides with it just intersects with the 23rd of November pivot that we had in our Bitcoin chart, and that comes from simple geometry using some GAN methods. So that would align with each other, and if Bitcoin is going to pop from here, which I think we're going to get the answer on within the next 48 hours. Let's hope so. Then I think ETH BTC is just going to sell off. I think everyone's trying to buy this, and actually going lower would make a lot of sense to shake the early buyers out. There's absolutely no reason, if we look at the daily, to suspect that this is any bullish, except the fact that it hit a support region, which I don't even know whether it's going to be a support region, because if we kind of care about recency, there's nothing that happened right here. It's just an efficiency that needs to be filled. So I think really this is going to get filled. And then the first real support is going to be around this block that kind of caused the outbreak. But it's, it really is that the short-term trend has pivoted around. So I want to get in on the extremes. And if I see a lot of people buying here trying to hold up this level and we eventually go through it, I kind of expect that we see kind of like a reaction on a one-to-one basis. So basically, if everyone buys here very strongly, and then we look at where this is, this kind of divides this by the 0.5. So doubling of this range into the support, it would just be too perfect. But that's kind of what I'm waiting on. I was too scared to short it because this is kind of like the sell-off, slow bleed rally down that suddenly just spikes because a bunch of shorts just all together decide to offload their shorts, and then it just pumps and there's not even strength. So then it dumps again, and then it's just being a total shit chart. So I'm just waiting for capitulation. I know a lot of people are saying like alts cannot go down anymore, etc., etc. And this is a good level, but they might be right. I don't know. To me, I think it's too early, and that's kind of crazy for me to say, because generally, you know, I try to hop on trends early and recognize them early, but I just don't recognize it here. I just don't. So that's that, like, and I don't even care about what's happening on, well, I do care what's happening on the ETHUSD chart, but that could just, be Bitcoin pumping. It's at a support. I think Bitcoin's going to pump. So logically, ETHUSD is going to pump too. There's no rocket science in there. I would love to tell you that BTC is going to go up, but I just don't see it happen yet. And if it does, I'm not telling you to sell it. I'm not telling you to short it. I'm just telling myself that I don't feel comfortable getting in here, and if I miss a trade because of that feeling, that's fine. Litecoin, Litecoin, we tried it once before and just didn't really work out. And I've tried it again. If you've been on my Twitter, you've seen that I long this as we retested it here. I think it's a good trade, but if Bitcoin is really going to rumble, this is just going to sell off lower and just keep bleeding until that train stops. It would be a giant gift if Bitcoin, if Litecoin manages to rally as Bitcoin rallies. And at this point, I'm just curious. I just want to see it. I was wrong once, but generally my thesis or my thoughts on something, it's not generally. There's a reason why I want to long something. So when it doesn't work out, necessarily doesn't necessarily mean that the idea or the thesis was wrong. But I just had a shitty setup, made a mistake, or maybe I just got unlucky, or it was just one of the bad dice rolls. Could be anything. So I want to give myself a second chance. I did. And if it does, if somehow it's the only alt that's going to show strength during a BTC run, I don't know if that's the case, but let's say it does. Then if this becomes, I'm going to get stopped out soon anyways. Not below here, but slightly lower. But if it rallies, I want to be, I want to become a seller between 5.2k sats towards 6k sats. This would be where I'd be reducing any position to zero. So that said, it's been 80 minutes. Sorry for taking so long. Kind of got to get back into the game a little bit. My mind's all over the place, blabbering a little bit. I'll try and make another one in a week's time, especially if we start to see a few of these things play out. Keep in mind that, this is not investment advice. I'm just a silly pirate sharing my thoughts on YouTube and Twitter. I appreciate you, and until next week.